Okay, thanks everyone for coming. Looks like we have a packed room. Just testimony to the fact that this is really a very hot topic, and we've kind of seen it emerge with great impact on all of our lives today. So just to spice things up a little bit, can I get a quick raise of hands of people that have not used their mobile devices to either book a cab ride, go shopping, order food, or use one of our available services today on the mobile device? People that have not used your device. Okay, so that kind of proves beyond doubt that the statistics that we just saw up here, I believe we are still probably the top 1% of the crowd where 100% of the people use mobile devices for all of everyday needs, right? And so without further delving into why we are discussing this topic today, we'll just get right down to the discussion. So I'd like to introduce our expert speakers today. So first up, we have Vikram Kolar, Senior Vice President, Engineering for Service Supply Chain Management at Myntra. And Vikram and his team were instrumental in engineering the transition of Myntra from a website-only business to mobile app only, right? A lot of us have heard about that, and in fact, that seems to be making a very bold statement, and a lot of services are actually following that trend today. And prior to Myntra, Vikram was, he led the online e-commerce and mobile commerce initiative for Sephora in China. And prior to that, also to take Walmart online in UK and Canada, and online grocery in the US, right? So he brings a wealth of experience in the space, and I'm very excited to have him here and speak to us about this topic. Vikram is very passionate about all things internet, and especially interactions from offline to an online world. And Vikram has a master's in computer science from University of Arizona at Tampa. So warm welcome to Vikram. Good to have you here. Next up, we have Aarti. Aarti Dio is Senior Manager Machine Learning and Software Development at Amazon India. So she leads a large data science and machine learning team, and also software development for Amazon India. So her team is responsible for data science solutions for a lot of businesses across Amazon.in. And she's also been instrumental in the key initiatives for Kirana Now, which is sort of the marketplace technology in Amazon.in. Aarti has a PhD in electrical engineering, and she's been one of the pioneers of the data science machine learning areas. So prior to Amazon, she was with Fair Isaac Corporation at San Diego. And her primary interest area was credit card fraud and trends like that in FICO. Right? So warm welcome to Aarti. Look forward to having your expertise on the panel. And next up we have Deepali Tamhane. She is the Senior Director of Products Discovery and User Platforms at Flipkart. So she's been with Flipkart since 2014. And since, after joining Flipkart, she was instrumental in building their CRM marketing function and intelligent user insights platform, which sort of forms the backbone of a lot of things at Flipkart. Right? And so Deepali has a master's degree in computer science from University of Illinois. And prior to Flipkart, she was with Responses, where she was heading the product development product group. So welcome, Deepali. So good to have you here. So we'll just get started right up. So I think one of the things that we've all noticed is, we've had this slow transition. The slow transition was, brick and mortar stores going to online. Right? So once we sort of hit that milestone, it has been kind of, it's going at rocket pace, right? A lot of businesses are coming online. And more recently, we have seen, the trend I was talking about where, a lot of businesses, retailers, and services are going mobile app only, right? And so there are services that are mobile app only, and then there are services that are products and services that are mobile app plus mobile web. And then there are other solutions that kind of go across all channels, right? Pure web, which was sort of the old desktop world. and then there are mobile apps and mobile web. So I'd like your perspective on what is sort of driving this diversification in the market today. Right, Vikram, we can start with you.
Sure, Rupa, first of all, thanks for that warm welcome, and to also the organizers of this fantastic conference. Really glad to be out here and sharing my thoughts on this topic. I think as we saw in the introduction video that we just watched, the slides that we just watched, I think it's the consumers that are dictating this, the change, right? Different markets are, developing in very different ways. The Western world, the emerging markets like China, like Brazil, Indonesia, and India, they are developing at very, very different pace and with very different requirements. The consumer in India, especially if you look at it, I would say majority of the Indian consumers are actually discovering internet for the first time through their mobile device. So initially, in some markets, we would think that, mobile is this, cool thing, but really internet and desktop are synonymous. But for the Indian consumer, increasingly, they see the mobile device and internet as synonymous. I would even say that we are almost leapfrogging the desktop era and directly into the mobile era. And the numbers that you just shared with us, I think, hit it home. If you look at smartphone shipments in 2014, they were 10x of desktop shipments. Smartphone shipments were 20x of tablet shipments in the country. And that gap is increasing every year in the country. So clearly, India has gone mobile. And so therefore, as companies like ourselves, as engineers, we need to be thinking of how best to serve this, this marketplace and this consumer. So the Indian consumer has become extremely mobile savvy, has adopted mobile in a huge way. Puneet Soni, the head of products at Flipkart, was out recently after the Big Billion Day, and he has a great blog article about his experiences meeting Indian consumers as he delivered parcels. And he tells of the meeting so many people for whom mobile is the only thing. So I think it's really the consumer who is dictating what we would serve them with.
Great, thanks for that. Dipali, can we have your insights on the same diversification topic?
Sure. I mean, I would second what Vikram says. We've seen about 55%. I think India is at a hockey stick stage compared to any other place in the world right now in terms of mobile growth. There's one other thing which I do want to kind of add to what Vikram says, right? We are in a transformation of ecosystem as well at this point of time. We are transforming from desktop to mobile. And the mobile ecosystem is also evolving. Like, imagine, when the desktop started, you had to download all applications onto your desktop. And then everything moved into the cloud where the browser became the single starting point. And my belief is that we'll go through a similar transition in mobile as well. And all of these, today they are different channels where you download an app, where the website is, mobile site is different. All of that is probably going to converge, right? And again, that is going to be driven by, who the customers are and what are their behaviors and what's most convenient to them. It really comes down to that. So I think we are in a huge transformation phase. We are in a huge evolution phase, and I think companies like Flipkart, Myntra, Amazon, all of these are really trying to follow where their consumers are going, what they are doing, what do they need, and how do we provide the best service for their needs. That's really the heart of it. I mean, at Flipkart, we see about like 70 to 80% of our transactions now happening on mobile. It's huge. Like what we have seen in the past 2 years has been insane. And 50% of those are mobile-only users. The growth that is coming in is predominantly from, beyond metros. And these users are not sitting in offices like us in front of desktops. These are users who are always on the go. They're trying to make, a livelihood, and the only device that's with them is a mobile device. So it's really about, understanding your customer needs and being able to be there for them when they need you. And be it desktop, be it, the mobile website or the app, if there's an omni-channel presence needed, so be it.
Great, thanks for that. Dovetails well into my next question. So, Aarti, you are kind of, slightly differently positioned that you engage with the customers on multiple channels, right? So, how does that bring about, additional data for you as a business to sort of engage better and build more recommendation systems, things
Sure.
like that?
So let me just motivate the omni-channel position. I think for Amazon, when we think customer backwards, today we also have a large part of our traffic coming from mobile. More than half does come from mobile. But we also have a fairly large user segment that still does use desktop and even mobile web. There's a certain section of people who do not have smartphones yet. And do access Amazon through these other channels. And so that's why right now, we want to offer whichever channels customers are wanting to use in terms of, online sales or other activities. In terms of data, so today we offer the same experience. So we do have data that will say, okay, a customer who's accessing mobiles versus desktop, etc. But today we've chosen to keep the experience the same because on the one hand, if you're going to a shop, you want to see the same recommendations and same search results when you move from one device to another. So there's an argument for keeping the experience consistent across these channels. There is a potential to personalize more in future. I would say we are not doing that right now. I think we have to experiment with that a little bit. For example, if there are certain payment options that work better on mobile, then maybe that becomes the default payment option always on the app versus not on the desktop. And so these kinds of customizations could be done in future, but today the experience is, we've wanted to keep it uniform across these channels because sometimes it can also become confusing if you switch things around too much. The second point I just wanted to make is, as we are talking about desktop versus mobile, etc., we're thinking from the end consumer perspective, and that's the largest customer base, but then we also develop interfaces for sellers. All our organizations have sellers as customers. And so even there's the desktop versus mobile channel sort of, what do we offer, what's the right medium. And so that, I just wanted to offer that perspective that it's those other types of customers also who need these different types of interfaces. And just a last third point on this is, one of the other reasons to keep these cross channels is we have some use cases. For example, we have an assisted shopping initiative where we are trying to get people who are not used to online shopping to start shopping online. And the way these customers are kind of acclimatized to this is when they come into points where they're coming in for services, like for booking railway tickets or for paying their bills. So they typically may not have an internet connection at home, may not have a smartphone, but are looking to get these done through points in their area, through local shops in their area. And so these shops, for example, usually have connected PCs. And so, that medium does become important for that type of customer. And so that just sort of kind of one example of how a different type of customer may want, something non-mobile, at least to get initiated into the online shopping experience.
That makes sense. Yeah. Sorry. So, Dipali, one of the things that, delving a little deeper down, so when a user has an installed app and, you kind of intimately watch their user behavior, right? So on an installed mobile app, there is a lot of data that gets generated that can be used to provide frictionless experiences to the users, right? Can you talk a little bit about, what kind of intelligence is built on this data? Right, so it can make personalization so much better, it can make recommendations so much better, and in turn, the users want to come back to your app. So what intelligence drives that?
Sure. I mean, I think, as we all know, our mobile device is our personal device, right? Like, you may have one desktop that you share with your family members at home, but you will have your own mobile phone and your family members will have their their own mobile phone. So this is really your personal device, it's your activities, how your day goes, and what's convenient to you. It's highly individualistic. And what that means is that there's a huge opportunity in terms of understanding these users, what their usage is, what are their needs, and being able to provide effortless experience based off that. Given mobile device is always with you throughout the day, I mean, one of the basic ones that comes out of it is location, right? And location is a huge game changer in my mind. On the desktop, you just don't have visibility into that. You can tap into IP-based location, but it's not accurate half of the time. But I think, in terms of location, there's a lot of synergy between people who live in the same locality, what their, let's say, spending power is, or even what their tastes are. And, you can start weaving this into the experience itself and providing recommendations based off of that. So think about, experiences like, top trends in Bangalore, or even, top trends in the neighborhood that you live. They'll be very interesting. I mean, personally, I think I would be very interested to figure out what's going on, or bestsellers in your area, or toys that are selling for like 2 to 6 year olds. These are things that I think will be extremely useful, and location plays a very key role. One other thing is, even though if users are not logged in, what's the information that you have about the user? It's their device as well as the location. That's the only thing you have. So being able to solve the cold start problem using this data becomes very interesting as well. And then as users start to interact more with your app, you understand their behaviors, click patterns, purchase patterns, and you build it out more. So location, I would say, is a big one. Another one is time of usage. So think about it. I'm driving to work until 8 o'clock. I don't even look at my mobile because I'm busy getting my kids ready and off to school. But when I'm driving to work, that's when I'm on my mobile device trying to catch up for get my day started, getting it organized, looking at my calendar. During the day, I'm both on my mobile device and desktop. On my way back home, again, I'm only on my mobile device. And then late at night, I probably am on my iPad or my desktop. So usage patterns differ based on time of the day, and mobile device can actually give you signals as to when this user is really ready to engage with you on shopping, right? Like if I'm really busy in a meeting and you send me a push notification saying, hey, buy this, it's not interesting. I'm going to look at it and I'm like, I'll come back to it later. But if you catch me at the right moment where I'm, let's say, heading home and I'm just kind of, in a mood to kind of spend 5 minutes and relax, and if you catch me at that time, you're going to get a lot of interest from me and kind of, explore the app and explore the product. So time of the day is very critical. We've also found certain users which are night owls. I mean, they've gone through a whole day of hard work and stuff like that, and once the kids are asleep, probably they get time to do certain things in their life, and these are the people who browse at night and buy at night. So it really, I mean, I think this is another signal which is very interesting from a providing the relevant experiences at the right time, right? So personalization is right message, right time, and the right person. These three elements have to come together. So this plays a very critical role as well. A few other things are, we've started this initiative of collaborative shopping or social shopping in Flipkart, and we recently launched this product called Ping. And what it does is it basically, tries to get information about your contacts, and it's trying to kind of make the communication while you're shopping very easy with this. So now we have a sense of who your contacts are, who are these people, what are they doing, and being able to leverage all of that, use collaborative filtering, and then being able to provide personalized experiences based off similar behaviors. So it brings in a flavor of, exploration and diversity in terms of the content that you see. So if you go to an app and it basically shows every time what you have bought or purchased, maybe it's interesting, right? But if it starts showing you content that you may be interested in, that you are, that's relevant to you and you may like, and it gives you an exploration flavor, that's when you really engage more. So that's another view to personalization. Like, how do we provide that, serendipity of like, oh wow, this is really nice. I'm so lucky that I found it, right? Like, you have to create that delight to the user. And I think, leveraging some of these, data points through mobile becomes a very critical play.
Very insightful already. Vikram, your thoughts on building upon the intelligence of data, right? So how does that really pan out from an engineering perspective?
I want to echo Deepali's thoughts and also state that in the world of mobile experiences, personalization becomes even more an important problem, an important challenge for us to solve. Because of the reduced form factor, imagine 21-inch screens going down to 4.5, 5, maybe 6-inch screens, right? Now you've got to be really, really smart about what products you offer. And that's going to be made possible by the user browse patterns and the data that we are understanding about the user's likes by time of day, by location, really, really understanding what she wants and putting the right products in the right order, right? So that's one benefit, technology is helping get us to have a much more personalized experience. The other thing I would also add a flavor to leveraging user data is on the merchandising side. Now, again, selection is very important. Retailers like to procure stuff that will actually sell, right? So what do we procure? How do we understand this? So we are actually able to look at user journey patterns, understand product attribute clusters that work very well, really understand, okay, the user is looking for party wear. And in a party wear journey, what are the products that come about? And what attributes do these products share? Right? Using user journey data, clickstream data, we are able to understand what products are of interest, and of course merging with transactional data, and then understand the underlying attributes that are making this product sell or be of interest, and then buy those products. So it's both on the front end, providing extremely personalized experience, as well as helping merchandisers actually put the right product in front of the user. Especially in the fashion industry, which is extremely seasonal, things change a lot year over year. You have to be really, really sure about understanding, because products change. The same pair of jeans is not available next year. But maybe there is a trend and there is a set of attributes that are working well. So using data helps us put the right products in front of the consumers.
Okay. So that kind of brings up the next question, right? So this is not for one user, so 10 or even a few hundreds, right? We actually talk about millions of users every single day, every single hour of the day. Just going by some of the statistics that we saw, India alone has about 70 million internet users. And from what I understand, nearly half of them, on the retail shopping side. So this kind of generates enormous traffic, right? So the next question that comes to mind is, you obviously have to build technology stack that has to scale across the board. Start on your server side and, balancing of transactions, all the way up to building fluid mobile apps that are also very responsive. Right, so in your experience, what have the challenges been typically, and how have you overcome them to scale?
A topic that's very close to my heart. Mobile, of course, brings in its own nuances, and I will talk about it, but also start off with actually saying all of the good things that we as engineers have done to get performant, very scalable applications, web applications, whatever. All of the tricks that we've learned over the years to do server-side optimization, right? Using maybe event-driven architectures like Node.js, which is very popular at Myntra. Using technologies like NoSQL databases for certain use cases, right? Using the right combination of caching technologies on the server side, right? Whether it's object caches, out-of-memory, process-agnostic caches, distributed caches, etc. All of the servicification of your business logic, all of the tricks of the trade that we've learned over the years in improving server-side behavior or responsiveness, absolutely, of course, applies to mobile applications as well. Now you've got that down. Now let's work up to the consumers or to the client side, right? So in between client and server, of course, you have content delivery networks and network optimizers, etc. Yeah, got to do all of that. right? Now, finally coming to mobile, where we'll spend a couple of minutes. If you think about the mobile application, of course you have two major classes and several more, but Android and iOS being the predominant, you would actually want to think about your application in layers, right? For example, one of the core things that you will want to look at is your network, right? So the ton of interactions your mobile application is going to do with the server. So how do you optimize each of these requests, right? So there are lots of phenomenal SDKs in the open source world. There's Facebook has a network detection SDK, which allows you to really understand whether you are in a 2G network or a 3G or 4G or in a Wi-Fi, what's signal strength, etc. It gives you all those hints. Now, as a developer, you can use those hints to optimize the behavior, right? So, for example, images, which is one of the heaviest assets that you would download in an application, you would want to actually scale down the image, degrade to a lower quality if you are in a bad network. So by detecting the network quality and using solutions like Cloudinary out there, which can actually give you different resolution images, you can actually download a different image for a 2G situation and flip to a 4G or a Wi-Fi situation if you move to that kind of a network connectivity. So there are SDKs like that. And also, one of the things that you also need to think about in the mobile world is, request priming, right? So, basically in an e-commerce application like ours, there are certain URLs that are going to be of high interest. And that applies to even the media world as well, media applications. You have this data, you have that heuristics. Use that to download data in the background, right? So you can essentially prime your requests, have content much faster, right? Then working our way down to images, Facebook has. So using solutions like this, and also being smart about what data you are downloading or what interactions you're doing. For example, we talked about analytics. If you are in a 2G network, not a smart idea to be sending all of those events that are happening to your server to collect. Maybe store them, batch them, and when you are in a better network quality, batch those requests down to back to the server. So using techniques like this, you can really, really optimize behaviors. And if you have time, we'll try and also talk about React Native technology later on, and talk about how React Native also helps performance. But do all the good stuff that we've always been doing as engineers on the server side. Get that story right. Use CDNs, and then on the application side, use these techniques. Phenomenal SDKs out there in the open source community. Use them and optimize behavior.
Just a quick follow-up on that. Would you actually say that native mobile apps perform better than hybrid apps in such a case? So is there more control that we have as developers over native apps?
In terms of user experience, definitely browsers have to catch up. HTML5 and CSS, etc., have to catch up. They are catching up. There is a lot of progress that's been made. But today, if I were an engineer or an application developer trying to build an extremely interactive, rich consumer experience, I would defer to native technologies right now. And but then technologies like React Native actually give you the power of web development to native experiences. If we have time for that, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, thank you. One other interesting thing is, great, we have mobile apps, we've gone shopping, and we've added things to our cart. And when time comes for checkout, right, we have umpteen number of options for payments, right? Though what I understand is cash on delivery is very popular in India. We are probably, the only country that does that popularly, right? But this has sort of given rise to, other businesses like third-party wallets, right? So there are payment systems, and where you can park certain amount of money, and then you can use that, to make payments and checkouts. So is that because, payment security hasn't really caught up on mobile? And what are the security aspects of using payment systems like that? And how do we actually see this, crossing paths with Android Pay and Apple Pay? Right, India has yet to catch up on that again. So I'd like your thoughts, Dipali, on these aspects.
Sure. Yeah, I think, we've, for e-commerce, we pioneered cash on delivery, and that's the trend that has taken on. But now with mobile coming in, I think the game's quite different. Specifically, as Aarti was saying, the mode of payment on mobile, or the preferred mode of payment on mobile, could be very different. There are lots of, innovations going on in this area. Some of these are like, what Rupa just called out, mobile wallets, which is, prepaid payment instruments which are semi-closed, and RBI has certain, has relaxed certain KYC, know your customer norms around that, right? So you can ask your customers to kind of fill in their wallets, and the transaction becomes easier in terms of, the number of levels of authentication that is needed. So that becomes, that has been a trend that has been picking up. There are lots of companies who, Paytm has one. There are other companies like EasyTap, etc., which are also like, working towards, mobile wallets. There are some more forward-looking ones, like Apple Pay was introduced in the US, and they're basically building the connection across all the entities in the billing chain, the marketplace, the payment information, as well as the device, right? And what it also enables is, today what you need to do is you go to a shop, you want to buy, you swipe your credit card and make a purchase, versus what's being enabled using NFC, which is near field communication technology, is you don't need to swipe your card. It's, you just take it closer to a device and you tap on it. It's called tap and pay, right? You just tap on it and you make a payment and you're off. So it's becoming easier and easier. Apple's also looking at fingerprinting. Especially security, as Rupa called out, being a huge concern, and consumers are still kind of not very comfortable in adopting all these new methodologies of payments. How do we make it more robust? And biometrics slash fingerprinting is a core track, which is kind of really picking up, where for every transaction, instead of the two-factor authentication, one of the factors of authentication becomes fingerprinting of the user, and then transactions become easy. So there's a lot of, I think, evolution that that will still come in this area. And I think we are just kind of, we'll have to go through the different phases where both consumers, banks, and various parties involved become comfortable about what that payment methodology is and how secure it is. And consumer adoption is going to be a key thing that drives that.
Again, kind of, what is still sticking on to the security topic a little bit, right? If there is fear of adoption for this trend today, it's probably driven by the fact that we still see a lot of fraud, right? So we have third-party systems, merchant wallets and all of that. But still, I think, fraud is still something that we cannot really avoid, right? Aarti, you do a lot of work in this area, so I'd like your insights on what kind of trends are we seeing in fraud?
Sure. I should clarify, it's more of my past life. Today I'm not directly working on fraud detection, but I have some slides to just give everyone an idea of, how today cybercrime is distributed. So this slide just shows the, different target countries, and the size of the circle sort of shows the size of cybercrime attacks on those countries. So you can see India is in orange, I think, here, and the different types of attacks are cybercrime, hacking, cyber espionage, cyber warfare, and then additional. So India has two big circles on the first two, cybercrime and hacktivism, and there's obviously US is like the biggest target, but India does have its share of attacks as well. For organizations like us, it's really very important for us to earn customer trust by ensuring that we don't let these kind of attacks affect our customer experience or make them victims of fraud. So I'm sure their organizations too, and Amazon invests a lot in detecting and preventing fraud, so that customers are not negatively affected. Can we move to the next one? So this one is just a follow-up on the previous one. So if you just look at cyber attacks within industry, so those the distribution I showed you before can split across government, industry, so on. So if you just look within industry, the top industry affected is software, which is like 26%. And then the next one is actually e-commerce. So it's the second most affected industry in terms of these attacks. And the big violet circle actually is sort of a combination of a lot of different ones. But the main point I wanted to bring across here was that e-commerce is one of the key industries which is affected by these cyber attacks. So if you think of e-commerce and what are the key types of fraud that do occur, sort of three key categories you can think of. One is payment gateway. We've been talking about payments, and that's where the money is, right? So fraudsters will usually go directly to the money. So payment gateway is definitely one area where we have to secure our processes. Second one is the risk of losing confidential data. Identity theft is something we've all heard of. It's something, that's what keeps people back from putting data onto the internet. In yesterday's panel, for those of you who were there was a lot of discussion on this, and the panelists themselves, some of them were sort of not very comfortable giving their personal data, and this is one of the reasons. And the third is transactional frauds, where as buyers and sellers are transacting, there can be collusions between them, there can be money laundering schemes, and so these can lead to fraud as well. Now again, I don't mean to be an alarmist here, but this is more sort of to make you all aware, and each of our organizations know these frauds very well. We've been working on these for many years. We try and detect them, we try and be proactive about them. So the next slide, I think, talks about some of the preventive measures. So if you think about preventive measures, it's really sort of a continuum of actions. There's no one thing, there's not a single machine learning model or a single report or a single investigative team that can stop this fraud or prevent it. You start with getting fraud reported, you collect data, you build rules, you build investigative teams, you build analytics, and then you build machine learning, you build predictive models. So there's this whole range of things that an organization has to do in order to stop this fraud, in order to detect it in time. And talking of scale, one is, of course, the number of transactions that you have to monitor here is very, very large. And at the same time, you have to be able to act very fast, right? Ideally, you want to catch fraud real time. As it is happening, you want to stop it. And the trade-off always in making, designing these preventive measures is how much friction do you put on the legitimate user versus catching the actual fraudster, right? Because even though fraud happens, it's as a percentage, it's a very small percent of all the transactions that are happening. And so if I put in like 3 layers of security in every transaction, the users are probably going to abandon it after the first or second layer, and you're going to get frustrated. Even the 2-factor authentication that we have in India, as users, we can find it very frustrating when we have to enter things twice and go find those codes on a card and so on to make our transaction happen. And so there's always this balance of how do you make the transaction as easy as possible for the legitimate user, but at the same time put in preventive measures in place that will enable you to stop or catch fraud. And so, this slide has sort of the gamut of all the different types of things that can be done. And a lot of machine learning and data science has been used in this area for actually many years. Today machine learning has gotten a lot of publicity in a lot of different areas, but in this particular risk management area, these kinds of techniques were being used even 10 plus years ago.
Okay.
So I think that's it, right? Do I have anything else on this?
Yep.
Just looking ahead then, and I think this fits into what Dipali was saying. what are some of the prevention techniques that might come up in future? She was talking about biometric authentication and fingerprinting, voice recognition. That's something. There's a lot of work being done on voice, and maybe in future you can recognize the actual user through their voice. She talked about near-field communication also, I think. One of the things, actually talking about mobile, the identification of the user actually is more certain with a mobile device than, let's say, with a desktop, because your device ID is a lot more reliable identifier of you as a person, as long as your mobile is not stolen. But at least you know that this is the same device. Versus, let's say, in a desktop or PC, if you're tracking through IP address and user agent and so on, then it's actually more challenging to identify a specific single user. And that becomes important in some of these fraud prevention techniques as well.
Okay, switching gears a little bit, right, to what's more emerging in the space today. We know that one of the things that most users do is messaging and social networking on their mobile devices, and so this kind of brings the crossroads between shopping and social networking, and so there are two ways in which either the shopping experience starts from social networking sites where they see an ad or something like that. Maybe on Facebook, Twitter, etc. And there's also, socializing once you're inside, a shopping app, right? How is this really creating user engagement, and what is the technology that's driving that? Dipali, if you can talk about that.
Sure. So, we launched Ping sometime mid this year. Ping is a messaging app within, or it's a messaging feature within the Flipkart app, which allows, two users or a group of users to converse with each other. And we did a lot of research on how, what is the decision-making process, or kind of, how do users kind of really narrow down on what they want to buy. And if you look at the offline world, you generally go shopping with your family and friends. You discuss, you touch and feel, and you have some fun, and you make purchases. So shopping inherently is a very social experience. But online shopping is a very lonely experience, right? Like, you're sitting and you're just kind of immersed into it, and you're browsing, and So one of the things we thought that there were two flavors. One is, the whole social experience makes decision making fairly easy in terms of, like, you get opinions. You say, hey, what do you think about this? Have you used this before? Do you know someone who's used this? And the second thing is, it's just fun to interact with people. How can we make shopping fun? So those were the two main themes that were behind the Ping launch. And what we are seeing is, people are really, open. We were a little bit concerned about people, give us permission to their contact list, like, because it asks for the contact list permission. And, folks have been very receptive to that, and they share products, they browse products together, they add things to wish list, they look at different features, especially for a lot of if you are buying, let's say, a big ticket item like a mobile device or a large appliance, having that second opinion or an expert that you want to talk to becomes really handy, right? So that's where this kind of communication within the app is where we are seeing good usage. The other area we are seeing good usage is all the touch and feel categories, like, fashion, lifestyle, and home, where you really want to kind of, where if you're buying a dress, you want to kind of ping your friend and get her opinion, saying, hey, what do you think? Will this color suit me or not? And is this accessory going with the dress that I bought two days back? Right? So that kind of conversation is, is what's happening over there. And from a Flipkart perspective as well, I think what it's doing is bringing in a huge aspect of virality, right? So if users, who don't have the app, are kind of nudged to install the app, where you want to have a conversation with your friend. Or second thing is, if you have not come back to Flipkart for a while, it kind of nudges you to say, hey, your friend is asking you a question, they need your opinion, come back and, answer that, or help her out, or help her, do shopping. So it becomes a highly engaging, way to kind of have your users be there, and it goes beyond Flipkart, right? This is where you connect with your broader ecosystem. And that's, I think we've seen some really good, engagement through that so far.
Yeah, we really needed more reasons to shop. So I think
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly.
great. Okay, and image search is another thing, right? So I look at something in a printed magazine, I snap a picture of that, and I directly go on to shopping portals and I pull the same product out, right? So that is really emerging today, and it makes people want to get what they really see and they're impressed with. So how is this working? And again, what's sort of the technology that's driving that?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think, there is image search, and then we also launched something called as visually similar recommendation. They go hand in hand. It's been insane in terms of, we've started off this again in the fashion category. Our hypothesis was again, for touch and feel categories, we want to enable that whole exploration aspect and let users figure. I think so far, like the feature, the way it works is you're in a mall, you like a dress, you take a picture, you upload it, and use, try to see if Flipkart has any similar dresses. From there you can also start your exploration saying, show me similar things like these products, right? And then there are cross-sell recommendations saying, here are the handbags that go with this, or the shoes that go with this. So the entire experience is highly immersive, and the technology behind it is interesting. Like, we have a technology that extracts colors, it extracts patterns and stuff like that. And then once you start marrying, personalization signals saying, this particular user has more color affinity towards these specific colors, or, she likes flower patterns versus, let's say, checks and, triangles or squares, you start understanding users' preferences through that as well. So I think it's just a start, I would say. The next couple of phases would be expanding it to like home decor, and home is another big one, right? Like I take a picture of my living room and I say, what, I want to find curtains that are matching to my, right? Like, and it throws you options of different curtains, or I'm looking for, decor for my home, and it would be a phenomenal experience to kind of actually, extract out products that match with the picture that you uploaded. So I think there's a lot of innovation that will happen in this area. There's a lot of work going on in augmented reality as well. Like, I think you like a piece of jewelry, you upload your photograph, and with 3 different views, and it actually shows you the jewelry on you, and you can figure out how it looks on you. Or you take a picture, you go to a grocery store, you take a picture, and actually you can start making a purchase right there from your mobile device. You just take a picture and say, tap, 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 I want this. And on your way out, it's ready and you're done, right? So those are some of the things. I think image and visual discovery is going to see some huge transformation in the next couple of years in quite a few areas, and I think it'll be interesting to see how it goes.
Yeah, just to build on that, there are also immersive shopping experiences, right? So in some of the brick and mortar stores, what's very popular is there is a kiosk and you stand in front of it and you try either the makeup on or your clothes on even before you decide to buy it. So Vikram, I'd like your thoughts on how you think this will get applied to online shopping experiences, and especially in the context of mobile, how do you see that evolving in this area?
I think Deepali touched upon the topic briefly. There are 2 experiences. One, of course, in the brick and mortar world, we have these mirrors, magic mirrors, where you can stand in front of it and choose from dresses. So trying out stuff is very, very easy. Now, some of those experiences are moving online. Few different things are making this possible. One, with the advent of the mobile device, you have a pretty powerful personal computer in your hands, right? Network quality is improving tremendously, and you are able to transmit images and videos very quickly to the server side. On the server side, few different things are happening. One, of course, some of the pre-computation that you need to do, applying image processing techniques, video processing techniques, have been made phenomenally easier by the advent of GPUs, graphical processing units. Now GPUs are available on-prem, and if you don't prefer that, they're available on the cloud. Right? Amazon has a very good GPU offering through the AWS service. So there's phenomenal, processing power that's now available both in the hands of the consumer and as well as on the server side. And but really techniques like image processing have taken off tremendously. We are now able to essentially assemble 3D models almost instantaneously via some photographs that were uploaded by the user, create a 3D image, understand the nuances, and then match that to the fabric fit. So you have the sizing information, you have the fit information, and you've done a lot of image processing to understand the fabric and the fit very well, and marrying them almost in real time, and assembling a virtual image of how you would look. I mean, that is really, of course, not to overplay this space, it's still very much evolving, right? The jury is still out there. There's a lot of improvements we need to, some of the things we have tried in Myntra have, tended to be quite operational, heavy on the operation side to make this experience available at scale. So we've solved it, for a few hundred products, maybe a few thousand products in the past, but to scale that to pretty much your entire offering, that's going to take a lot more investment. So I'm sure engineers in the room should be thinking of opportunity here. So I think there's a lot of advancements that can happen in this space. Image processing is going to be really hot.
So given all of this, it's kind of clear that the needs that are being driven by digital commerce is kind of bringing in innovation in other parallel areas, right, that kind of make up the whole ecosystem. And you did indicate that, the immersive experience is still evolving. But I believe, innovation in, supply chain is something which is much more closer to fruition, right? So I'd like your thoughts on, what kind of innovation we are seeing there, and we'll then follow it up by a pretty interesting video that we have up. Yeah.
Sure. So I think supply chain is essentially getting disrupted by mobile devices, right? So if you break up the supply chain, right, it has broadly 4 hops, right? One is your first mile, where you procure the products from a vendor, right, and get it to a logistics hub. And then you have the warehouse, where you store products, and there's a lot of scope for automation and processing there. And then from warehouse, you move on to the transportation network, which gets products across the country to your consumers. And then the last mile, the critical last mile, where products actually are handed over to the consumer. Mobile technology is pretty much disrupting all of these 4 spaces. If you talk about first mile, there are logistics apps that ensure that the right product in the right quantity is picked up from the vendor, right? There's proof of essentially pickup that can be automated very easily by a mobile device. Then with warehouse, we've moved on from a very archaic, telzon kind of devices which had ancient browsers on them trying to match the product to the product that has been ordered in your warehouse. And now Android devices at a fraction of the cost are making these pick and pack operations that much faster. Then you move to the transportation, again, with phones in the hands of pretty much every aspect of your logistics network. You are able to track the packages, you are able to track the trucks, you are able to track the drivers. Especially in very developed markets, this is very critical. Even the hours that the driver drives before he takes a break, these have to be tracked. So mobile devices are disrupting in the transportation space, the leg of the journey. And last mile, we've already seen that in India itself, right? Proof of delivery applications, payment on delivery applications. All these technologies are coming together and creating that customer wow. And for example, for folks like us, if the customer does not like the product, the service delivery agent is actually able to quickly accept the product back, and the refund is almost instantaneously issued to the consumer. So all of this is happening because of mobile devices. Android definitely in markets like India is the leading vendor. Of course, we have heard about airlines in developed markets moving their entire manuals, flight manuals onto iPads, right? So mobile technology is definitely as much as it's disrupting consumer world, it's definitely disrupting supply chain world, definitely something we are very happy with and investing in a lot.
Yeah, I believe we can look at a visual of that to sort of, make a point on that.
We didn't touch upon voice. But
Yes, yes, we can quickly cover that, I think.
Yeah, I think to add to image search, which is they've both talked about it quite a bit, but voice is the other technology that I think will take off. For example, you'll have devices where you can speak to the device and create shopping lists. It's already happening. These devices are getting developed. You can speak to a device and get information. So here there's speech recognition involved, there's machine learning involved, as well as keeping knowledge databases, keeping them current, being able to answer trivial day-to-day questions. So you should just be able to throw out a question in your house as you're doing something, and the device will answer it for you. So these are some of the new technologies that will kind of drive some of the innovation in this space.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I believe I need help from the console to play. Yeah, thank you.
This is a story from the not too distant future. It's the day of your daughter Millie's big football match, and to be clear, that is the sort of football you play with your feet. Anyway, she is missing a vital piece of equipment, specifically a size 3 Puma Evo Power firm ground soccer shoe, the left one. And some of it, sadly, is in the family's 3-year-old bulldog, Stuart. So now what? Well, you could yell angrily at the poor thing, but what's the point? Because all it will hear is blah, 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 Stuart, blah, blah, Stuart, blah. Much better to behave like a rational human being. Find your tablet and place an order with Amazon for a pair of Puma Evo Power firm ground soccer shoes and have them delivered in 30 minutes or less. And in a location not too far away, a miracle of modern technology is dispatched. It's an Amazon drone, and after rising vertically like a helicopter to nearly 400 feet, this amazing hybrid design assumes a horizontal orientation and becomes a streamlined and fast airplane. In time, there'll be a whole family of Amazon drones, different designs for different environments. This one can fly for 15 miles. And it knows what's happening around it. It uses sense and avoid technology to, well, sense and then avoid obstacles on the ground.
All right, apologize for the video quality there. I believe we had a glitch. So essentially what we were trying to summarize is, the human involvement in all of these logistics is just going to go down with disruptions in supply chain. So essentially what we were seeing there is the warehouse completely managed by robots, and then even the delivery with drones, right? So that kind of rounds up what we can expect to see in this space that's emerging. So another last question that I had is also wearables, right? So all of us have smart devices now, and wearables are the top trend. And banking and other financial apps are already on devices like iWatches. So I'd just like your thoughts, maybe Dipali, on where you see mobile commerce intersecting with wearables.
Sure. I mean, I think, all of us have heard about the Apple iWatch. A lot of us probably already use the Fitbit. So there's a lot of wearable technology coming in fitness. That's an area which is picking up like crazy. And it tracks your steps, it tracks your calories, it even tracks your sleep, and tells you whether you've had a good sleep or not, and what are healthy levels of sleep, and etc. So just improving your overall health through a wearable is a core theme. Another big area is post hospitalization medical care is another area where I think this is a hugely useful technology, where patients who are sent home, doctors can monitor their health, their ECG, their sugar levels, etc., and it sends alerts periodically, for any action that needs to be taken. So it really changes the way we live life, and some of these examples are like a core value add, right? Like otherwise, the way we used to communicate, you either have to make a phone call or you have to go through the whole check again and stuff like that. There's some fun ones as well. I think the wearable technology space is evolving quite a bit, and some of the fun ones that I have seen, which are in fashion, are you're wearing a dress which is digitally activated, and you go to a party, and based on the music, it lights up differently. That could be a fun thing to do. Not sure I would do it, but that's a start. Another one is, you can charge your phone, like you have your purse or even your jacket, right? It has solar panels which are made for that, and it automatically can charge your phone up to 50%. Like, how many times have you ended up in a situation your phone is discharged and you're trying to figure out where to charge it? So there are some like real world use cases that are being solved through wearable technology, and it's going to evolve. I mean, tracking is another big one, right? Like, you want to track your pets. Where are they? And if they get lost, it's a huge value add in that case. So I think this world is going to evolve. I think the aspect of where to cross the line on privacy versus not, and how much data you collect becomes a very important factor to consider. But I do believe that as long as users find value in terms of what it provides, users would be open to it, right? Like Fitbit is a classic example where I am sharing information about how I work out and how many steps I take or whatever, and I can check on that data on my phone. So it's out there, and then I can share it with my friends. So there's a lot of value add in terms of what it brings to the table. So I'm as a user, then you become comfortable sharing that data. So that's a thought on that.
Okay, that was a good closing thought. I believe we've kind of run out of time, so we'll probably have time for one or two questions. So if there are any. Okay, we can start with, yep.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Harleen. That was an excellent card. My question is for Vikram. So what was the business need, I would say, for Myntra to go all mobile? And was it customer stickiness, maintenance cost, or something else? And did you see any difference or impact on the revenues, which you would have probably derived from the other channels as well?
I think the way I'll answer that is, let's say we were to start an e-commerce operation in the country, and we had massive ambitions of winning at this. So the question you might ask is, what's the best way to go about it? And then you would look at all of this data that's in front of you, smartphone shipments being 20x of, let's say, desktop shipments or tablet shipments, 10x and 20x respectively. So there's the customer has clearly voted that they are going mobile, right? So then the question as an entrepreneur or a startup that you would face is, okay, I have certain resources. How do I best invest the resources to serve the consumer in the best way? So then you would essentially connect the dots and maybe arrive at the decision that maybe we did at the earlier part of this year, right? So if you look at markets like China, right, they have diverged tremendously from the Western markets, and I believe the Indian consumer and the Indian marketplace will evolve more towards a China model, which is extremely app-centric, right? And take that route versus the dual or desktop plus mobile route that's there in developed markets. But I think this is a point in time, right? Again, if as an entrepreneur you had to make the decision in, let's say, 2 or 3 years' time, when things have changed, browser technology is changing, will have changed dramatically in about 2 to 3 years. A topic that we couldn't quite get to, but I'd really encourage the folks in the conversation today to go out, research technologies like React Native, right? So essentially, React Native is a web technology or a JavaScript technology helping you build native experiences. So as an entrepreneur, as a company, as a developer, things are evolving dramatically. So I think if you ask the question now, I think for the India market, I think you would start with an app-centric approach, but in the future, maybe the answer is going to be different. And in the middle, you have React Native.
Thank you. Basically, now we hear about this billion-dollar day sales frequently.
and all that. And you also have like all the m-commerce and e-commerce stores out there. You don't have a well-defined warehouse. You have a different model of engaging the local partners or vendors and all that. So can you explain about the different technical challenges and also the performance and user-centric challenges when you set out on these billion-dollar sales with respect to user experiences, rates, determining the rates, making sure that demand versus supply and just in time and same day delivery and all happens, and also, this logistical challenges and how you have attacked those things.
Sure, I think that's a great question. I mean, I think, the more we've become more of an ecosystem / platform, and we have more and more sellers coming on, when we run these billion-dollar sales, there's huge planning that goes behind this. And the real mantra behind that, or I would say real insight behind that, is the more transparency you provide to these sellers on what is expected, specifically the demand part of it, right? They can plan better. They can, line up the right inventory. If you can give them insights saying, hey, during this part of the year, these are the products that sell well versus not. Like, how do you optimize for that? How do you optimize the placement of your inventory across India based off of demand? Like, you may have all your inventory in the east, but you know what? Your demand is all in the south, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't help, right? So there is that level of insight that needs to be provided to sellers for them to kind of plan very well. And we kind of, really have, we have to establish a very strong relationship with them. And to be very honest with you, this ecosystem is very new to sellers in India. They don't know how to do online commerce, and there are people who've just pretty much, have a shop and it's going, and now this online thing is in, then exploring out. So there is a lot of hand-holding. I mean, Aarti was also saying that these users need to be introduced to online and what it means to do business online. So there is a lot of trading that these guys have to go through. We guide them through this entire process quite a bit, and especially on inventory placement, etc. So that's usually how it all comes together. We inherently believe that, happy buyers buy more and create happy sellers. Like, sellers are online specifically to get more sales. So we as an ecosystem or a platform need to enable that the most, right? Making them successful is our success as well. So helping these sellers out, right from like listing their product on Flipkart to really, picking up that product from them, delivering to the customer, and if there's any returns and cancellations, being able to kind of really seamlessly manage that is a huge supply chain optimization that needs to happen. And that's what we are on to, essentially.
Great. Okay, thanks very much. It's been very insightful.
Rupa, I just wanted to mention just one thing before we wrap up. This is a note that I had made myself to share. For us to understand the mobile revolution, the transformation that's happening, one of the blogs that I would really advocate you all checking out, if you have not already favorited it, is a website by a guy named Benedict Evans. So ben-evans.com is the website, or you can just Google it. He's phenomenally well-read and a part of Andreessen Horowitz, and his insights are almost, gospel for many folks in the mobile. He has a very good perspective on both developed markets and emerging markets. So I'd really urge the folks here to go check it out if you have not already favorited it.
I think anything coming out of Sand Hill Road would be very popular. Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
It's more on the business model, right? There used to be a lot of costs associated to acquiring users. And I know a lot of the e-commerce, m-commerce, they're putting huge numbers to acquire all those users. Now, from a Flipkart perspective, or a Myntra or a Snapdeal perspective, do you think you have reached that number of users, or how many years do you think you'll need to get that number of users that all of us are fighting for in Indian space?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I definitely wouldn't claim we've reached that, those number of users, right? I mean, the Indian e-commerce market, as we saw the numbers, or just the mobile, internet market space is growing at a 50% plus, year-over-year growth. So It's definitely not done. We expect about 500 million smartphones by 2018. That's a huge number, and in terms of opportunity, it's crazy as well. I think, as you know, as we discuss through this forum, as mobile penetrates more and more in India, I think the core thing is going to be understanding these users' needs. And India is a subcontinent. I mean, we all know that it's culturally diverse. The needs are very different, and you know, being able to kind of provide for those needs is going to be the real game changer here, right? Like, because the experiences will, or the needs also differ based off of, you know, location to location. So I think definitely not. I think the opportunity is huge in terms of the users that we can go after. And as I said, India is at a hockey stick stage in terms of, you know, taking off on mobile commerce. So we're still here, and we have this climb that we are going through at this point in time.
Thank you so much to all of you, and here is to more technically savvy shopping, I'd say. Thank you very much. Thanks everyone.
to the audience.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.